Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Okay, today we'll start with our session. But take ED. So we will take 5 topics, and these topics are important, particularly from a societal point of view. The first topic is the analysis of the socialization on social media. So, do you think that socialization takes place at an early stage, 5, 6, 7? It's a lifetime process, but on social media. You see that, just think about it. There are 2 serials, or 2 series as we call it. One is Chota Bheem. Everybody knows about it. Chota Bheem. There is a serial, and there is other series for kids, Peppa Pig. Have any one of you have seen that? Okay, Chota Bheem. So you see that in Chota Bheem the issue is on personal heroism. There is this person who is a hero, and in Peppa Pig you see that the approach is completely changed, and the issue is on daily life problem. So the development, the cognitive development that takes place in Peppa Pig, it takes place because you are seeing what is real, and in Chota Bheem something hypothetical is going on. So the difference is there in the perception. So you see that the socialization process, as we can call it from this perspective, starts from Chota Bheem or watching Chota Bheem or such other any of the series for the kids. So when we grow up, and it is in balance with the schooling and the parents or the family. So that is the part that socialization even for the kids begins from an early age. So as we will move subsequently, then we will understand that how socialization is changing the children's, the adult, and nearly everyone, when we can say it. The second topic deals with gender responsive India. So you see that we have generally seen that labor force participation rate in rural India is higher than in urban India. We know the data. What is the data exactly? Anyone? See, these are some important data, you have to remember it. For example, according to 2018 census or in report, it was 22% for the rural India and 18% for the urban India. So labor force participation ratio differs at different places. So why it differs? Is there any problem in the urban India? And what are the patterns of the mobility? What are the patterns of the finances? And overall, what is the level of progression because of which India is not that gender responsive? And largely it is based on a report by the World Bank. The content of this topic is based on the report. Now, third topic, treating, financing and building sovereign digital infrastructure. So, internet as we know it, but along that internet there is also another thing, UPI. Everybody knows it. So what is in the UPI that is making it so successful, and how it is also helping us in building foreign relations, international relations? So what are the features that a good digital public infrastructure should inculcate or imbibe for the better development? Now, here is the difference. When we are talking about digital infrastructure and digital public infrastructure, there lies a big difference. So, UPI is a part of digital infrastructure or digital public infrastructure? Why it is public?
So uniformity.
Yes, uniformity, and largely there is an absence of a centralized body. Largely it is controlled by a quasi regulatory body, and the benefits of it can be used by any of the individuals. More importantly, if we try to see it, you see there is also the feature of interoperability. Clear है या नहीं है? Interoperability है कि नहीं है? है ना? कैसे? accessibility of the data from any of the bank. Yes. So these are the things which is important feature of digital infrastructure. And as we have heard, there is large amount of large articles on why UPI is successful and why business like MasterCard and Visa are feeling threatened by the success of UPI. So these are the parts which we will discuss in the third topic. A case for ethics in quantum technology. Now, apart from the use in the Marvel Cinematic Verse movies, quantum is really changing the world. Quantum mechanics is really changing the world. So, if we call it, if we can analyze it, there was a material called DDT. सबको याद है ना? So when DDT was invented, it was used in agricultural product, as an agricultural product. But apart from that, there were many hazardous issues that it propagated, isn't it? So whenever something new is invented, there is the issue that there are ethical boundaries which generally we cross. And once we cross it, it gets muddled and we forget that where are the limits. So quantum mechanics, because of its feature, will change the world, because it is questioning everything that is related with the classical physics. And it will also help us in inventing many new materials. So significantly, it will have a large social, ethical, legal and such other consequences. So that is the part which will be discussed in topic 4. Now, topic 5. Topic 5 is largely related with the disruptions which is brought by the fintech, buy now pay later mechanism. More importantly, what is the issue that Indian students are facing? The default rate of the education loan in the Indian students is the highest, and it will certainly have consequence for the future progression of the country. So that's in that pretext, it is said that a credit system as well as transformation in the credit rating agencies is needed, so that the benefits of lending to the demographic dividend can be curtailed with. Now, we will start with the first topic, which is an analysis of the socialization in social media. So, you see that how many of you are aware with some of the theories of Sigmund Freud? Some of the theories, or how many of you have heard the name Sigmund Freud? Yeah, psychologist. Now, his theory is very important in the pretext that he talked about 3 kind of socialization. First is based on ID. Second is ego. Third is superego. Any idea? Id, ego, superego. Any idea about what exactly it is? These are the things? No? Okay. Id or ID as we call it is human at barbaric self. कोई development नहीं है. You see that at early stage, just how the kids talk. मेरे पापा है, my father. Even brothers will talk my father, not your father. So the development, the socialization has not taken place in this case. So what is socialization? ये तो easy है, ये तो बता सकते हो. What is socialization?
Inculcating moral values.
Yes, in a way, but that would be a very broad definition. Making meaning of our lives. attributing meaning to our lives, isn't it? See, if you inculcate the moral values and see, socialized you are. Now, probably I believe that there is this web series which is quite famous nowadays, Khaki. Any of you seen that? The antagonistic character in that series was socialized, but he never inculcated the moral values. So socialization was there. Socialization on the wrong pretext. Changing heroes. Now, so socialization, that how we attribute meaning to our life. So it is human at barbaric self. Isn't it? Barbaric. Why? You see that during the course of civilization and evolution, we were barbaric. Survival was the only rule. So the morality was completely absent. So in that case, when man is at barbaric self, it is called ego. Ego is, first we will discuss superego. Superego is when a human behavior and part is completely guided by the social values. You must have heard about the altruistic man. क्या होते हैं altruistic man?
Philanthropic. Philanthropy.
Philanthropist, selflessness. Altruistic is one who lives for the society. He has no, private interest. Every part of him will be dedicated to the society. Okay, he has no self. So when you are completely self, then there is this part called superego. Now ego. Ego is a mixture of two. Superego, the societal self, and your barbaric self. So how you behave. See, probably if we go by the id, then we will be characterized as a society where dog eats dog. That is the case, na? And if we will go by the superego, then probably there will be no fight, no dissonance in the society. So largely society is run by something called ego. That some part of id is also there in the ego, and a significant part of superego is there. So id is how you behave privately when there is nobody to see you. Maybe some part of your fantasy, maybe some part of your, dissonance with the society comes in the private. Okay. But when you comes to the public sphere, then there are so many peoples and you have to behave in such a way that you won't be felt bad. Okay? So, ego, this is what exactly happens on the social media, where there was first characteristic feature of anonymity. Largely social media was anonymous, and to some extent, to significant extent, it is anonymous still. Leave apart the blue tick part or the Instagram part. So it is anonymous still. So there you started behaving in such a way that your id was your private, your barbaric self was preponderant. There was a preponderance of the barbaric self. Okay? So you see that the issues like cyberbullying or trolling, there is no quality control, there is no social regulation. So you start doing it in a way where there was that your barbaric self was preponderant, or it just signifies or encapsulate all other self. And that is the reason why you see that even learned men sometimes behave or write in such a way that there is a problem. Okay. And probably you see that this person, or Devendra Patnaik, we know about him and how he tweets. जानते हो कि नहीं देवेंद्र पटनायक को? No one. And the person who has written this book called Mahabharat, Ramayana, a different version, an alternative version of Mahabharat and Ramayana. Sorry, Devdutt Patnaik. Devdutt Patnaik. So he generally talks with all abuse and such other issues, and there are so many other persons like that. Even though he was none, and this has this reputation, he says that he just does it to encounter the slangs and the trolls, to control it. But this is the part about anonymity was an important feature of social media. That's why the behaviors like trolling and such other issues. Now, there is also a tendency of narcissism. अब narcissism क्या होता है? Excessive obsession with self. Excessive obsession with self. Now the generations of the Instagram, where everything is private, sorry, public, photos, achievement, everything is public. This comes to this part. Now the sensible parts come from the ego. So if we see it, that there are two tendencies are occurring at one. One, that you are completely intertwined with the public world, and you are completely segregated from the public world. So there is a tendency towards a binary. Digital binary exists on the internet. कहां से आ रहा है ये? id से आ रहा है. अब डिजिटल बाइनरी का मतलब क्या हुआ और ये कैसे यूनियन होता है? अब देखिए, you see that even I give this example quite frequently, that earlier only the upper caste or the dominant caste people used to write their names on the vehicles. Brahmin, Rajput, Gujar, Jat, these are the dominant and the upper caste. You will never see the name of the scheduled caste and such other person on the vehicles or anywhere. So now exactly as started, anonymity was the feature, but largely there was synchronicity in the view. There was an identity of the operation in case of Dalits. So they started writing something, and it was appreciated and accommodated by other sections. In 1960s, there was rise of Dalit Panther Party. How many of you know it? Dalit Panther Party? जानते? What was their demand? Dalit Panther Party, no one? How many of you know about the Black Panthers Party? No? See, Black Panther Party started at the same time with Martin Luther King, and largely they wanted equality in the society. Same was the demand of the Dalit Panther Party. They wanted equality in the society, sometimes even with the violent means. But the idea of Dalit Panthers Party failed. Why? Because you see, the Dalits are never a monolith community. Monolith समझते हो ना? Or a homogeneous community. There are differences even among the Dalits. There are hierarchies even among the Dalits. Dalit in itself is a word. First, initially we use the Harijan. Harijan is something which is of the ritual order. Dalit is something which has an identity of the oppressed, and coined by the Phule, because we are oppressed. So that is the part. So Dalit in UP, in Maharashtra, in Bihar, Dalit everywhere was different, and there was no common identity. Now with the rise of social media, the identity of oppressed started occurring everywhere. And you see that after that, that anonymity wala part was gone. Now there is a tendency, even on YouTube you will see that there are significant amount of Dalit raps. Even in Delhi metro, people walk with the bags of, with their caste name, Dalit caste name. For example, Chamar, Chamar rap is also there. So they are asserting the identities. Initially it was not possible. And it is largely taking place in the adolescent phase. Initially there was binary that people used to hide their names. Now they are asserting their names. That's why the anonymity part is gone. Now everybody is saying that we are this part. So this part is known as mediatization. That since adolescence, the media shapes your identity. So mediatization is significantly contributing to the process of socialization. ठीक है? समझ आया? Now, if mediatization is happening, it will not happen in vacuum. It will go along the process of other socialization, which is socialization based on family, based on schools and colleges. Now in this phase, other type of stereotyping is also coexisting with the process of socialization by social media, or as we call mediatization. Now the other kind of idiosyncrasies like based on gender, based on caste, based on class is also creeping in. ठीक है? So that part is creating a tension across the socialization. In school you are learning something different, and on social media, though the worldview or the perspective is a bit global, but that perspective also comes in, and there is no quality control, no control and everything. So your barbaric part, your ID part is getting preponderant or getting heavy over the other parts. That's why you see that there is this process of trolling, cyberbullying. It is starting in the young age. How many of you know this term, Delhi Boys Club? Delhi Boys Club. It was in the news, I believe, in 2020 and 2021. Idea hai? Yes, the Instagram case based in Delhi NCR, where the brats, rich school children, generally stereotype the girls in their classes and in the school. So, and they are doing it in the early phase of, like in the early age of 13, 14. So this type of tendency is coming from very soon, Delhi Boys Club. And there are so many incidences like this. And there are incidences in the Ryan public school or in the modern schools. So there are significant extent where the type learning based on the learning from the gaming and the social media, such type of tendencies are coming. Now, so socialization is there, but do you think that it is complete socialization or half-baked socialization? The overall process of the world is changing. Now we are moving towards global villages. ये तो सबको पता है. Global villages and supra state. Ideas are coming from the world. Ideas about the equality. Ideas about the fraternity. Cosmopolitan identity. But in reality, everything is different. So aspiration is based on the social media, and the reality is different. So there is a conflict. Based on this conflict, the issues are arising. Like millennials are losing interest in democracy. Now they are supporting the far right governments, according to a recent survey, that nearly 58% of the millennials are supporting the authoritarian government. This in itself is a crisis for the democracy. And you see the manifestations of it, that there is a significant rise in the overall numbers of the far right government across the world. Why? Because you see that socialization is happening, aspirations are different, realities are different, and based on this, see, China in itself is a propaganda government. So they say that, based on this propaganda, our government is running successfully. And there are certain other issues which are saying that authoritarian government is functioning fine, because there are so many divergent interests. And this is the basic principle of liberty or liberal government, that sectional interests should be balanced with. And people don't want sectional interests to be balanced with, particularly young people. So that's why the socialization is happening, but it is only partial socialization. Now, when you socialize, you have peoples to talk to, not only in that sense, but you view their faces, you view their expression and such other. So man is an animal in the world and with the world. And this is one of the most important principles because of which online learning is not successful. How many of you have followed this point? Online education, particularly in the schools, is not successful. Man is an animal in the world and with the world. नहीं समझे? You see that in schools, some students are really intelligent, some generally try to imitate them, okay, and some just follows कि भाई class कर रही तो हम भी करेंगे. So this is something we call imitation pedagogy, and this is generally true for nearly all the schools. Now in online learning, what you are doing is you are learning by yourself. There is no competition, there is no imitation, and there is no partially viewing and watching the world. You are completely isolated. So that's why online learning is not that successful in the pedagogic process. On the other hand, it is quite successful in the andragogic process. Andragogy, the education for the adults. Same is true with the early socialization, because you are socializing in early and based on only partial viewpoint, your socialization is not complete. You are not seeing all the and comprehending all the aspect that is to be watched at. So you are taking and understanding only the parts which is propagated with a certain viewpoint. Cambridge Analytica, the culture of the memes. So all these parts signifies a process of socialization which is only partial. Okay? So these are the largely conceptual part. Now we will try to see what is written. Socialization and communication. You see that it talks about faster, easier and comfortable, flexible kind of socialization on social media. That's why people are comprehending or understanding the issues with images and such other issues. Now, satisfaction on the human needs for the social interaction, because we are living in a world where there is hardly any time for the parents, even for their kids. So in this such cases, the social media is providing a platform where people interact with the other people of other region, and based on this the sense of alienation develops. Alienation पता है सबको? Alienation largely pertains to the sociology wala part, that you are detached with the yourself and detached with the family. See, there is this difference that when I was a kid, we used to play at the ground, cricket, football, or whatever game is there. But now people generally play on the PlayStations and the gaming consoles. So you see that socialization is not taking place that also. But due to ease of the communication based on the social media, some groups develop. So it is providing a faster way to socialize, responsible for changing and shaping the society. So shape society in one and another way, and individual changes and influence millions knowingly and unknowingly. Largely the points are nearly same. Changing is with billions of people involved in various 100 processes of the social media networks, sharing their lifestyle globally, diverse events, occasions, and we influence each other. Enhanced learning opportunities. Again, as I told you, important for pedagogic, andragogic process, not for pedagogic process. Now, access to health information. These are the way which are development. Now, negative impacts, psychological issues, alienation is there, competition is there. You want to get famous, and this is the problem, important problem with the superego, that you will do everything so that you don't lose your identity. Social media and catfishing. People fake social media networking profiles, in the process befriending stranger, which is sometimes results in stolen identity or fake identity, and sometimes even the issues, violence are also there. We have seen the cases recently. Now, effects on the real life relationships. This is the part based on there is the study that nearly 55% of the divorce are resulting because of the issues of the social media in the United States. Addiction to the social media, and this is the study of the Harvard Health. Now, use of social media for popularity. This is the point about the superego, that sometimes you become narcissist for that. Rise of sentiments over sensitive issues. False propaganda, fraudulent ideology, and triggering of the morphed videos, replacing the primary source of the reliable news. Threat to the internal security. Quick recognition. Social media has a big impact on people's everyday life, self-esteem, daily activity, even to a considerable extent, job decisions. Now, socialization in the closed room. Basically promoting socialization, but in the closed room, people feeling that social revolution through societal change by proactively working on the social media. Hard reality is entirely different from reality exists on the social media platforms. Social media platforms. Now, influence of social media on youth and teenager. Now, how many of you know about the yellow revolution? Yellow revolution? Yellow for Singapore, Hong Kong, sorry. And Wall Street movement. पता है ना सब?
Yes, sir.
क्या हुआ था इसमें? Largely
Wall Street.
हाँ, वॉल मूवमेंट कहाँ से शुरुआत हुई थी इन सब चीजों की? सोशल मीडिया से शुरुआत हुई थी ना. तो इफ वी आर सेइंग दैट इट इज कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट, सोशल मीडिया एंड ऑफलाइन एंड ऑनलाइन मीडिया इज कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट, तो ये कहना भी गलत है. तो सोशल मीडिया इज चेंजिंग द वर्ल्ड, बट इन व्हाट वे इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट. Social media, that the movement that happened in the wake of abolition of preventions of atrocities against SC/ST community in 2018, याद है, after the Supreme Court judgment. So after that it was based on the social media, based on the identity, that which when I said that the identity of digital binary reduced and there was an homogenization based on the development of the identity. उसके बाद वो revolution हुआ. So that is another important part, कि where the social media is helping in the socialization. Now, influences of social media on the youth, which we have discussed. Social media and criminal activities. Cyberbullying has become a major issue among youth in the last couple of decades. Aggressive act that is carried out by a group or individual repeatedly and over time against who cannot easily defend himself. Aggression occurs via electronic method, via the internet. Social media and terrorism. This part is also there, that social radicalization is there, and radicalization is a part of socialization, that too in a negative way. So why some people are radicalized, and is it because only of the social media?
Their grievances also there.
Yes, that is the part. Now, you see that significant number of the population who joined the IAS movement was from French society and the Belgian society. Why?
No public display of religion.
Yes, that is one of the important reason. But you see that if we follow the developmental path of the religion in France and Belgium, then there was no such grievances in the first generation. There was no such grievances in the second generation. It is only with the third generation that such grievances started in the or was seen in the public domain. नहीं समझे? See, when first generation migrated to these societies, they never cared about the religion. And largely they were intertwined with the secular society of the France and Belgium. The same process was witnessed in the second generation. But in the third generation, at one side you are saying that we are a secular society and we will give equal opportunities to everybody. But in reality, when somebody wears a religion color or whatever it is, such the placement is low, opportunities are few. Based on that, people feel deprived, people feel alienated. And such powerlessness, such power vacuum was answered on the social media, where there are so many peoples. Same is the part which I explained with the help of digital binary and digital unification. From digital binary to digital unification, a process started where people, powerless people, or where the power vacuum was there, started supporting such kind of radicalizing tendencies, and even it is still witnessed now. The protest in the France over the student scholarship, and even in the Britain, and even in India. So these are the issues which is supported, particularly in the aftermath of the Rohit Vemula case. याद है सबको रोहित वेमुला case and the Dalit movement that was woven around it. It was largely started with the social media. But at the same time, it is also a threat to the security, where issues like, if you have seen that how many peoples are there in the scheduled caste people, or the subaltern people are there in the Indian cricket team, such issues are being raised. So certainly it will have a negative impact. And this is the recent news. There was a question that how many Dalit people, cricketers plays for India, and it was largely in the Australian media. नहीं पढ़ा है किसी ने? And it was supported by the Indians to a significant extent, where the number of the players from the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe and the minority communities in the Indian cricket team was questioned upon. So these are the part about the social media and impact on different section. Though it is not covered.
Excuse me, sir.
Huh.
Can you explain about that yellow revolution part in Singapore? You mentioned something.
See, largely it's not Singapore, Hong Kong basically. They generally carried the yellow umbrella, and it was basically because China want to integrate them. Okay, one nation, one system kind of, and because it was largely, it is yellow revolution, the context is that it exactly happened, the people mobilized over the social media. The important part that we have to understand is that what is the social movement and how people mobilize. So people generally use some medium, and in this case the medium was provided by the social media. Homogeneity and at same place. The important is that in social movement people come there physically, but such movement, the social media is changing the nature of social movement. Even in India, though it results in half kind of social movement where people generally, and how many of you know about the net neutrality bill or the impact or the issues of net neutrality? No? See, in 17 I believe, that Modi government, not Modi government, but we can say Modi government too, Mukesh Ambani tried to brought a bill, not a platform where his internet will support some of the selected channels and some of the selected medias on the Geo network. Okay. Free basics, yes. Privatization of the internet. So based on this, the contention of the people is that net is a public good, internet is a public good. And if you are lending the money to someone, you will not ask that what he will use with it or what he will do with it. So give us the internet, we will pay for it, but you are not supposed to tell us that how we will use it. So based on that, there was a social media movement which forced the government to alter the public opinion, to alter the standings on the net neutrality. And it is the result of the social movement on social media which changed the government. And particularly in the age of metaverse, where a significant number of the people are present at one space, any changes can be brought. So social media, the process of socialization and social movement is an important and significant factor in the issues of the socialization. But the issue is that on how much and what are the aspects on which such kind of socialization is witnessed, and what are the aspects where there is only half socialization. So if we talk about generally the global good, non-excludable good, people support it completely. Public good जहाँ पे एजुकेशन की बात करते हैं, इंटरनेट की बात करते हैं, रेट्स की बात करते हैं, बट इफ इट इज सेक्शनल, पीपल हैव देयर individual interest and people generally come in conflict with each other. But if it is global good, for example, if we talk about the climate change, the opposition is a rarity or it is in minority. But if it is talk about the reservation or giving the benefits to some particular individual or some particular groups, so there will be contradictions. Now, important part again, if it is related with the gender, then again there will be issues with the, then again there will be convolutions or fight. For example, nobody in South Korea or particularly even in India, you will hardly see any of the large public influencers claiming that they are the feminist. How many of, apart from Swara Bhaskar and Richa Chedda, how many of the Bollywood actress claim that they are the feminist? Nobody wants to be claim that they are a feminist, because feminist certainly comes with some kind of stereotyping. Okay, so and the giving the benefits generally enunciate an opinion on the social media where largely it is against such kind of activities. नहीं समझे? नहीं? Any doubt to anyone?
Sir, you have a point repeatedly.
See, there is this article that there was this news particularly related with the South Korea that some actress claimed that she was a feminist and she was completely decried upon and she was trivialized in many ways, because the public perception is there that at one side you are talking about the equality. The same is case in India also, where the actors, like some of the actors are completely, villainized or ranted upon in the public. The thing is that when it is sectional interest, when it is against the interest of the majority, and some governmental policies is supporting some other section, then there is conflations and there is a fight between the different groups, and based on that, certain divergent interest develops, which results in cyberbullying and cyber trollings. So in such case, socialization is not complete, because your individual, the deep hidden behavior comes out in the public. Okay, so if it is non-excludable, non-rival is good, then socialization is complete. If it is for the private interest or sectional interest, then trolling behavior is there. Why nobody wants to pay the money? That's why non-excludable and non-rival is good. ये तो पार्ट समझ में आता है ना, नॉन एक्सक्लूडेबल नॉन राइवलस वाला पार्ट. Clear? Legislations, I'm not going into the detail because largely these are the factual part. Now, the way forward, that parent, educational institute, society as a whole have the important role to correct the limit of use of social media. Further, dedicated social media policy, वो आधार वाला part कि फिर the thing is कि if you will link Aadhaar with Facebook or any other social media, so some of the criticism of the government is not possible, or whole free speech will be curtailed. So if anonymity will be controlled, it will be difficult. Now, to say the complete free view, standards of ethical design, tech companies to prevent, avoid and discourage digital distraction and prioritize ethical human learning. The issue is that, what is the difference between the data, knowledge and information? How many of you know that?
Knowledge is active, information is passive.
What is the difference?
So data is in raw form, information is the processed form of data.
And knowledge?
The knowledge is the output of that both data and information.
Okay. Data, information and knowledge. So data is completely raw. Okay. And you need a perspective to access that data. And when you use with that perspective, it becomes information. Perspective comes from knowledge. There is this poverty line in India. 26% of the people live below the poverty line. 28% of the people live below the poverty line. This is the data. What is the information here? And what is the knowledge here? That, say, probably we define some amount of below poverty line. And if we change that perspective, information will change. Modi government is good. GDP बढ़ रहा है, infrastructure बढ़ रहा है. Modi government is bad. Social harmony is decreasing. Okay, and in the longer run, probably there are chances that with reduced social harmony, conflict will occur, internal security will be threatened, business opportunities will be limited. Okay, so data can be analyzed in different way. Now you have such number of the people, nearly 80% of the people are comprehending the social media or are on the social media. They have the data, but they don't have the requisite knowledge to comprehend that data. And until and unless knowledge and information is not there, based on that data, they will find the opinion and initiate the opinion, and वहाँ से problems आनी ही आनी है. आपको एक छोटा सा पार्ट मिलता है एंड यू आर जस्ट एवरीबडी इज इन द मैड रश टू प्रोपगेट इट और टू से इट without checking the reality. That reality will come from knowledge. नहीं समझे? So that is the part. That way forward, education and knowledge should be provided so that the refraining tendencies on the social media can be controlled with. Yes, this is one of the important line that serious action on mental health is needed. Significant, nearly say that 55% of the social media users are suffering from some kind of mental health illness. They have become addictive to it. They have the less power to concentrate. They have the sleep disorders. There are so many studies to prove that if a person spends more than 6 hours on the social media, these are the problems that generally occur. And if there will be problem, they will be part of the socialization too, because your focus will be upon the absent others rather than the present ones. And this is the problem that is being witnessed in nearly in every family, that even in the dinner time or during the course of meal, people are involved or attached with their phones. So the healthy environment, the environment which is conducive for the healthy conversation generally don't take place, and there are disorders and problems in at the family level too. Clear? Any question from the first section, first topic?
Sir, one doubt, sir. So this assertiveness of the vulnerable sections through social media, it is a good phenomenon also. Means they are raising their social standards.
Yes, it is a good phenomenon.
And it is a bad phenomenon also. They are using the violent means. So what we should write it? We should write it in benefit or we should write it in cons side, if asked.
See, vulnerable sections on the whenever vulnerable section comes, and if they are asserting, then it is not bad per se. They are asserting because there is a lack of equality. That has to be understood, that they are asserting. Dalit assertion is a phenomena and tribal assertion is a phenomena because there was a historical discrimination. But if that assertion turns to radicalization, then there can be problem.
Sir,
In the case of George Floyd, if we know about it, that after the death of George Floyd, black community asserted itself, but that assertion also created some kind of problem where nearly every section or every white population was commented upon, fought with or beaten. So there that part was the problem. We are not supposed to follow the grammar of the anarchy. नहीं समझे? Ambedkar speech. Okay, it should be within the constitutional bound. What exactly is happening in the Iran? That the subaltern and the weak women are asserting themselves. Then that is not a problematic part. And if it is going against the government of the day, then that is also fine. So it is largely contextual in nature. See, in case of Dalit session of 2018, some kind of police force was also used. So it should be done within the constitutional limit. That is important part. And as guided by the constitutional morality, largely. Yes.
Like CAA protest, so they were within the bound of the constitutional limits. So
Which-
still they were portrayed as bad and some actions were taken against them.
Which protest you are talking about?
Sir, CAA protest, the Citizenship Amendment Act.
Okay, CAA protest. See, again, as I told you that it is related with one section, and a balance has to be created. I believe that they were given the free hand and permission, and that was the reality. And when only court intervened, because largely it was related with the sectional part, that one section was saying that it is good, one section was saying that it was bad. So you see that in a democracy, in a liberal democracy, such kind of balancing and problems will always be there. Just take it, just think about it, in any of the society, be it Britain, France or any other society, the balancing of the liberal democratic principles is creating a problem, and there are these problems, and this is not a situation which is unique to India. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Now the second topic. Building gender responsive India. What is the participation of the woman in the Indian loan market? And how many of the SHGs are getting the loan from the financial bank? What is the pattern of mobility in the Indian public space or public mobility, public transport system? Then we have often seen that the seats are reserved for the women and with a specific lining, male, female. Okay, so but we also live in the age where the cisgenders have the equal right, or the transgenders have the equal right. So such kind of part that labeling male and female will certainly have the problem, and it will be problematic to certain other sections. So why and how and what type of public infrastructure should be designed so that India become a more gender responsive society? That is the main part. Why there is this need? Why we are talking about it? Because there was a report by the World Bank that how a toolkit for making India a gender responsive society.
Gender responsive women and also LGBT. Your gender includes.
Gender includes everything. Not particularly significantly women, everyone. So when we talk about the problems of the gender now, suppose what are the problems of the gender, then we also can write about the issues of the children. Not only male, female or LGBTQ and women, but also children can be part of that. Now, you see that at the beginning of the class we talked about the labor force participation ratio. And it is low in the urban areas. Why? And how it depends upon the patterns of the mobility. So largely this report was on the gender mobility pattern, but it was dealt in, or it was made in a more comprehensive way, which includes the financial market too. You see that most importantly, with the 22% and the 18% data, you see that male generally travels the longer distance for work. Woman travels the shorter distance. Male uses the private mode of transport and female uses the public mode of transport. Male travels solo. Woman travels in chain traveling. You understand the chain traveling? नहीं? भाई घर से निकले, एक तो पहले ये है कि बच्चों के साथ निकल रहे हैं. First, we will go to the supermarket. Okay, after that we will go to the hospital. They will go to the hospital. After that they will carry some work, and after that they will return home. So there is a pattern of the traveling in the chain way, and largely it is done by the public infrastructure. Even private infrastructures or private transports are not safe. For example, Uber, incidences in Uber. याद आया? Uber is part of gig economy, can be considered as the private mode of transportation, but it is still not safe. And there are frequent incidences of harassing, singing, sometimes touching, significant times touching, when women travels in the public infrastructure or public transport. The methods we have adopted till now is reserving the seat for the women and giving them pink cess. Pink cess समझ आया सबको? No? What Arvind Kejriwal has done? Bus ride free for the women. Okay, so that, a part of that, in place of developing better infrastructure, a kind of cess is imposed upon. Now, so is this kind of this arrangement working or not? And what are the methods that we are supposed to follow to build a better and more gender responsive India? And there are some case studies too. It is completely factual in its approach. So you see, because of the various threat at the public sphere in the urban area, the overall decrease in the labor force participation ratio is found at the urban places. According to one of the data, nearly 65% of the women after repeated violence stops coming out of the home and stops taking the public transport route, and that's why it decreases the one of the factor that it decreases the labor force participation. So in this context, various methods were proposed that how to make a gender responsive society. Need to redesign the states. Two basic aspects of the urban setup that needs to take into the account to address the issue of gender by city planning, and other is transportation. A design space to eliminate unequal power dynamics for the basic needs, safeties and enhancements of the quality of their life. So what they are suggesting, and even it is being done in the Hyderabad, Vizag and Kochi, Chennai even in Seoul, that they are opening up the kiosk, female she toilets, breastfeeding centers. You have seen this in the airport. So breastfeeding centers states that in fact this is done in Chennai, Kozhikode, Vizag and Vizag and Kochi. So these type of arrangement is needed. Currently urban space do not fulfill different needs for women and the marginalized gender. This is the example which I gave you. Cisgender understanding results in different seating arrangement, so it needs to be changed. That it impedes the representation and participation of women in urban public life and makes women feel threatened in the public spaces. Third part, need of the representation of the gender. They are saying that increment should be there in the urban public bodies, so that women and gender minorities must profess their viewpoint for a better governance and gender responsive approach in the building the cities. Global experience should be learned. This is the model in the Zurich based on PISCA index, which separates a separate office for gender equality, making gender responsiveness vital for urban function. Co-creating and redefining the and built environment remains the only way forward for building sustainable cities of the future. This is the model based in Paris or Zurich. So you can remember this. Building gender responsive governance, life formulations, law have traditionally made by the men without considering the voices of the female. So this part, now you see that it is more important that we talk about the accessibilities, affordabilities of the gender response system. That what are the problems that they significantly face? in this whole situation. These are the data. If you want to write, then you can write. Just wait a minute. Difference in mobility pattern for woman and man. Travel shorter distance, woman in case of. Travel with dependents. Engage in more non-work travel such as household travel. Travel during peak hours, off-peak hours. Undertake more frequent changes in modes. Largely travel in trip changing patterns and chain patterns. In this process, next point, in this process, they face verbal, non-verbal and physical form of sexual harassment in public transport and public spaces. Which often results in point 1, lack of safety deters women from stepping out creating a vicious cycle that lowers their presence in public space. Second, women face barriers in using public transport owing to gender blind design elements. Gender blind design elements during access and egress waiting at the stops and various process of mobility. Third, barrier to women's mobility actively restricts their choice around education and employment. The overall Indian labor force participation rate decreased from 47.1 percentage to 30 percentage in last 5 decades. According to another study, various women from Delhi University drop better ranking college due to the problems in mobility. Next point, deep rooted gender based social norms actively restricts women's movement outside their home necessitating a gender sensitive approach to facilitate women's mobility. According to National Family and Health Survey 2015-16, 46% of the women were not allowed to go to the nearby market, 50% to the health clinic, and 52% to the outside village. %41 टोटल हो गया है ना ओवरऑल इंडियन वुमेन्स के लिए. सो यू सी द मैग्नानिमिटी ऑफ द डेटा दैट इफ यू आर नॉट allowed to go to the nearby market, then how much it restricts your choices. And it particularly exaggerated after the COVID. Okay, it's really exaggerated after the COVID. Next point, women bear a disproportionate burden of unpaid care work in India, necessitating public transport solution solution for mobility care. That is nearly 284 minutes are spent in domestic and caregiving work at rural level and the same is 268 minutes for urban area. Next point. Women time poverty constrains time available for commuting.
Can you repeat this point?
See, poverty, just you can put it in the column, constrains time availability for the commuting. क्लियर है ये पॉइंट? कैसे होगा, क्या होगा इसका कॉन्सिक्वेंस? Where if somebody is getting a better job at Gurgaon and somebody who is staying at the Rajendra place or somewhere near to his home, he will prefer to work in Delhi even for the lower wages. नहीं. Consequence? Better wages does not necessarily means that, better wages also means better work environment, better opportunities, but you are sacrificing it just for limiting your travel time. This is something called time poverty constraint. Next point. Women surveyed across India has opined for better, safer, public transport and public infrastructure. Public infrastructure also means by ad hocism by the auto travel drivers, no light, no CCTVs, no gated community, no high wall society, okay, no CCTV footage. So all these are problems which is creating a problem at the public air ना. Street भी नहीं होता है. वो आप जानते हो broken window syndrome जानते हो ना? What is broken window syndrome?
For the initial stage, you don't address the
Yes. See, basically, largely this is metaphor for that, probably at a house, if it is deserted, just somebody throws a stone and break a window. And subsequently, you will realize that nearly every window is completely broken in that particular home. And after some time, it becomes a center for all the criminal activities. So this is something called broken window syndrome. That probably if a public infrastructure place is not well lit up, then they can be problem. So based on this, there are some of the case studies in Chennai where finding is that a rapid assessment provided by, you can read this, the case studies based on the Chennai, that in Visakhapatnam, Chennai, she groups, she toilets, breastfeeding kiosks were opened and a significant increment in women employment was witnessed. Further, women active participation and involvement in urban planning can ensure gender responsive decision making. As manifested in the Kochi experiment or Kochi governance model, where the sectoral distribution of women's participation was increased, which resulted in more participation of women at the workplaces. ठीक है. Next point. So, next point, how to improve the mobility pattern. Increasing the number of public transport. As done in the Paris and Zurich for providing gender related solution. Further, integrating a gender lens in new and existing policies. For example, in London, a 4-year action plan was initiated to promote equality in public transport user. With important gender desegregation data from women's group, disability rates group, and elder person. With stakeholder of diverse community, information service design. The same was witnessed in Dhaka. Where the BRT corridor, bus rapid transit corridor, employed 20% of the women.
Sir, can you repeat Dhaka point?
BRT corridor employed 20% of the women, reserved 25% of the seats, and subsidized the monthly travel plan. Next point, devising the fare policies for lower cost of travel for women and person of other genders, to boost their ridership. Example is provided by Singapore model, where the final fare was calculated on the basis of distance travelled not on intermediate distance. दिल्ली से नोएडा जाना है किसी ने, बीच में अगर बस से चेंज करने की जरूरत पड़ी, मेट्रो नहीं है, so probably that is the case where cost increases, and that's why people don't want to travel. So problem traveling to some station, taking Delhi metro and Sikandarpur metro, alag metro, so it increases the cost. So that's why the final decision and a subsidized are part of the not intermodal, but final destination is calculated. So these are the patterns which should be initiated in India to create, along with the things which I already mentioned, to create a better gender responsive Indian mobility pattern. Okay, next point. In case of finances, that how to create a gender responsive financial market. See, it changed after Jan Dhan, but hardly all the women are involved in, nearly rural women are involved in SHG activities, and it is one of the major problems that they are not there with any collateral, which limits their chance of loan. So how, and more importantly, the participation of women, even the urban women, is very low in the Indian secondary market. है कि नहीं है? What is the participation, overall participation in the secondary market in India? Share markets, share market and debts and security market. So these are the things which we are supposed to make it gender responsive. The overall percentage is right now 5 point something. I don't remember exactly, 5.3 probably. Before COVID it was only 3.83. Now it has increased to 5.4. In US it is 15%. 15 to 17%, and out of which around nearly 8% or 9% of the women participate in the secondary market in the United States. In India, it is paltry 0.82%. Even not that. So, see, the participation of the women in the Indian secondary financial market is very low. Similarly, they are not, because of the absence of the collaterals, they are not getting the loans. Third, this is being translated into the case of digital entrepreneurship also. Entrepreneurship depends upon the network. And because of lack of network, they are not getting any venture capitalists to fund their operations. So, of the total startup, only 2% of the startup belongs to the women in India. And significantly, none of the companies are unicorn. Or is there any company which is unicorn?
Nika?
Nika is unicorn, and to some extent Mama Earth is also reaching that extent. Okay, but apart from that, hardly any woman-led entrepreneurship business is there, which is a unicorn. Nika is unicorn, yes. So these are the problems. Now, this is talking about Jan Dhan Yojana, that 77% of the women in India owing an account at a bank, other financial institutions has expanded access to financial services and financial dependence. However, there is slow adoption of digital financial services by Indian women indicates a gender gap, as internet users among women is 50% lower than men, and only 14% of the women have access to the smartphones. It certainly decreases the chance of accessing the UPI. So, advancing economic equity from a gendered perspective can lead to economic empowerment of women, which can help in socio-economic advancement as per the SDG 5 goals. Now, there is this report by the RBI, and RBI is also saying that they should be lended money with the priority sector lending. Okay. Further, there is a separate provision in the Mudra Yojana for the women entrepreneurship. And for the SHGs, the Grameen Bank and the rural RRBs are given mandate that they should lend the money without any collateral after, this is the development after 2019 report. More importantly, advancement in the secondary financial market will come only after gender sensitization or equality at the different level. So, risk-taking business generally comes, see, the participation, that only I told you 0.84% of the participation of the total women are there in the share markets. This has to be increased. And as such, there is no initiative by the government as of now, but equity linked saving scheme. How many of you know that? ELSS. After 2017 budget, the tax benefits are given according to ELSS, equity linked saving scheme, which is also forcing the, or which is helping the women to participate in the gender responsive market. Clear hai? Any doubt in this topic? I said there is not much scope for the doubt in this topic, but yet, yes.
Sir, are you getting my voice, sir?
Yes, I am getting your voice.
So, from the government side, they are going to be building the infrastructure facilities, infrastructure facilities, everything from the government side. They are providing to women, sir. But they are not able to giving the opportunity to change the behavioral to surrounding people. How we can able to change the behavioral changes? By the infrastructure, it is not possible. Then what are the steps?
No, it is possible by the infrastructure only, Okay, as I told you that there are various models are proposed. For example, Zurich, Paris, Singapore, or Bangladesh corridors, where there are women-specific buses, and the number of that buses are frequently increased. Just see about the rush in the first compartment during the peak hours in Delhi metro, and you will understand the point. That if that part is increased, then the participation will ultimately improve. First coach is reserved for the women now. So after that the participation, just see the rush in the peak hours. Nobody wants to travel in the open compartment. So that peak hours, if such frequency of the transportation is increased, see this is only case when we are providing with the public mobility part, and it is not supported by the public infrastructure part. The difference is there. What we are talking about public mobility, it has to be supported and cooperated by the public infrastructure. And what are the parts of the public infrastructure? And I don't know how many of you have been to that Rajiv Chowk metro station. I believe that those who are residing at Karol Bagh and Rajin Nagar must have been that Rajiv Chowk metro station once. And you know, in that big metro station, there is only one breastfeeding kiosk. So such is the level of infrastructure, gender infrastructure at this big metro station. And this is at the metro station, and hardly there are any such infrastructural part at the city markets or anywhere. Most of the things are informal only. So this is what it is lacking. Awareness will automatically come with the economic empowerment. But for that, it has to be supported by the gender responsive public infrastructure.
Sir, one more thing, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, as per the background of NCRBC report,
Uh-huh.
crime rate is going to be decreasing now. So how we can able to stop the by only?
No, just repeat the question, Shiva.
Sir, as per the current crime record,
Uh-huh.
and they are not able to come outside also some of the areas in the city. How we can able to stop these crimes by taking off infrastructure?
Okay, infrastructure. See, what I was saying, suggesting that there should be CCTVs and there should be well lit streets. So when these parts will be covered, so it will, you know, act as an automatic kind of enforcing mechanism, because the part about the implementation is lacking, and there will be regard for the law, and it will automatically improve the overall, fast track the case and improve the overall law and order, and ultimately it will act as a barrier for the criminals and such other behaviors. So you have seen that there are many incidences even in Delhi metro, where such kind of eve teachers were punished in Delhi bus, and so ultimately the buses and metros are becoming safe. So in such a way, it will improve the overall functioning of the public infrastructure and the participation of the women. Now, treating, financing and building sovereign digital infrastructure. It should be creating, but So, non-excludable goods and non-rivalous good. What exactly is the meaning? If you will understand the concept, then you will understand this topic. How many of you are aware with this concept? I believe that because you have finished the economics. So you must all are aware with this non-excludable and non-rivalous goods concept. So this is the main important part of the topic, that how to build, treat and finance the public infrastructure. Largely, as we have said, that we are moving into the age of quantum mechanics and quantum computing. So, and largely these are controlled by the big fours as of now, because they are investing a significant amount of money in the development of the cloud computing, quantum computing and such other issues. So probably there will come a time maybe at some time that, you know, in future, maybe sometime in the future, that it will be private good. And if something is private, then the participation of other section is very low. So how to treat such infrastructure, because see, largely digital infrastructure has become an issue. So this is what the topic deals about, that how to operate it. For example, how many of you have heard about this M-Pesa? M-Pesa initiative. Is Aadhaar a part of digital infrastructure? Public. So this is what this article is talking about, that how to do it, that it will be sovereign, the data will be safe, and it can result in a better part of infrastructure. So first part is interoperability. Where the sound is coming from? Outside, no? Okay, fine. So interoperability. If any digital public infrastructure is interoperable, then it will be sovereign, competitive, and it will be second, intermodal. I will come to the topic subsequently, but intermodality has to be provided by. Intermodality. See, digital infrastructure of late has become very important, like any other social infrastructure issues, because of its increased uses across the world. And in this case, if we follow that where most of the servers are located, कहाँ पे है servers located? Maximum? Huh? Western countries, these servers are located at the Western countries. So who is acting as the gatekeeper of the data? Is there any body which is acting as the gatekeeper of the data? Who is controlling it? As most of the servers are located in the USA, particularly United States, and apart from that Western countries, so these are not sovereign data. With the help of quantum mechanics, there is always a threat to the classical cryptography. So what is the status of quantum security in India? ये जो part है, this is written in the next article. But among all these disruptions, that a digital public infrastructure is needed, and it has to be financed and it has to be created so that India can, or for that matter any other country can survive in the onslaught of big private corporations. So, and in this case, it is important to understand that what is digital infrastructure? Refers to the digital technology that provides the foundation of information and communication technology, internet, broadband, cloud services, software. So, what is digital public infrastructure? Foundational populational scale technology systems on which the digital economy operates, such as identity systems, payment system, data exchange, and social registries. So these are the parts. UPI estimated result at 12.6 billion in 2021. ये तो पता ही होगा सबको, नहीं? If for any transaction, MasterCard or Visa charges 1%, and in India, Nearly 3.6 billion of the payment is taking daily on the UPI. Now nobody is using the credit card. People are using the credit card for the EMI purpose, but significantly most of the transactions are checking on the UPI. So DPI is not just a technology but a non-tech layer of institutions, legal and regulatory frameworks, and communities are equally, if not more important, the robust technology solutions. So what they are saying is that we are supposed to build the digital public infrastructures on the open digital ecosystem. Like UPI is open digital ecosystems, and open digital ecosystems will always have the features of what I told you. Yes, non-exclusivity, non-rivalrous, interoperability and intermodality. By payment to one gateway to another gateway is possible through digital infrastructure. Now, building trust in the ecosystem to drive DPI adoption, processing, sharing of the data, including access controls, encryption, anonymization, and the likes. These are the principles which secure processing and sharing of the data. For example, M-Pesa, as I told you, is the Aadhaar cards like system in Kenya. And this is important because India is doing it by itself. India in the African country, only countries like Morocco, Jordan has the penetration of the internet in more than 75% areas, where it is in Kenya and South Africa it is less than 50%. And for all the other countries in sub-Saharan region, largely the penetration is less than 23%. So here India is acting as a role model to build a good public digital infrastructure system like Aadhaar, UPI and such other issues. Why it is needed? Because for all the payments that is done to the population and for digital public infrastructure part. For penetration, for even for the startup culture, online startup culture, digital public health infrastructure system is needed. Acha.
COVID and health sector. COVID and health sector.
Just think about it. Just think about a paradox that Amazon is very successful. Flipkart is very successful. And there was this one venture of the government of India which is not that successful. And it is done for the small time, small businessman. I'm just forgetting the name, but ONDC. Why it is not successful? Although it is only 6 months with the launch of the ONDC, but why it is not successful? And it is not charging anything with the small investor, that small shopkeepers. But hardly, according to recent reports, only 556 transactions is taking on average on this platform. And what is the volume on the Amazon and Flipkart? So the first thing that by this we have learned is that government is not supposed to venture into the market and competition. But it should provide the proper public, and see, this is not the first case. Even the Karnataka government tried to build some app for the purpose of cab aggregator, and it also failed. And when it was not charging anything from the cab aggregators, so cab drivers. In 2018 itself.
Recently, Kerala government also started an application.
For the cab aggregators?
Yeah, for the cab aggregators.
And
They are charging less margins compared to the Ola and
is it running successfully? No. These initiatives is done by the every government. Even Delhi government has done it in 2017 itself, but it is not successful. So government is not supposed to venture into the private sphere, but it is supposed to provide the digital infrastructure facilities, starting with the Geo revolution in 2016 itself. It provided the spectrum so that the country can develop. The sovereignty can come from the Sri Krishna Committee report, but again the issues are there with the data localization. And we are not capable right now, as of now, because we don't have the, see, this is a bit a part of the broad topic. We don't have the chip infrastructures, the necessary chip requirements development for the building a complete sovereign healthcare, digital infrastructure. We are dependent upon largely the chips. So what are the initiative by the government of India to provide the chip facility? I believe that it has been done in this last ED class or the class before. Raghu sir or Lakshmi sir must have taken that class. Exactly. So, but again, it is at a very early stage. So, see, this is the topic that we are supposed to encourage the collaboration through open technologies, reuse and repurpose digital building blocks to create new solution, open source software and collaborating building technologies. Digital sovereignty is the right of a state to govern its network to serve its national interest, and most important, which are security, privacy and commerce. The part about this is that the international politics of the data in the United States, there is a body which controls most of the data and most of the internal bandwidth. The Internet Forum Association, located in New York. Most of the sovereignty comes from there. The servers is controlled by these bodies only. So that there is no sovereignty as per the digital data is concerned. There are several limitations to the data localization, and ultimately it can result in some disruptions for the local industries also. There has been significant complaint against the UPI by the MasterCard. This was one of the issues during the Trump and Modi government, na? याद आ रहा है आपको? नहीं? That MasterCard and Visa card complained to the US authorities that UPI is kind of not dominating. It is funded by the government of India. Ultimately, NPCI is the body which is targeting the UPI. Na? So, it is a kind of protective measure. But again, we can talk about in this aspect, we have created a system which is sovereign. And this is the issue, because even last year, there was the circular by the NPCI that you are not supposed, Google, any other authorities is not supposed to share the data of the NPCI to any of the parent body. This was one of the issues. So, now financing, see, this is the part that digital public infrastructures are non-excludable and non-rivalrous goods. The financing digital public infrastructure, the Indian story. This is important part. Digital public infrastructures are non-excludable and non-rivalrous. It should possess three key design: interoperable, that it should be fundamental; modular, DPI is a staff component that can be assembled in different configuration. ये बात समझ में आया? And third, protocols, a set of common protocols to which all the components must adhere to. Financing digital public infrastructure, the Indian story. This is the heading. नहीं मिला? क्या समझे? समझ गए? See, this is the theme of the essay. Sorry, this is the theme of the topic. Yes, Shiva.
Sir, are they also trying to issue the only RuPay cards in India, sir, to avoiding the foreign cards, Visa and MasterCard?
Yes.
Are they given the one statement also
हाँ
to secure the finance data.
But again, that is not a complete circular of the government. No? Probably if you want somebody wants visa or master, then they can take it. It is not like we are only relying upon the rupee. That is also true, na?
If you rely on the foreign master and visa card, our Indian data has been holding in the Western countries. So that is the main problem.
So you cannot control the people. If somebody wants visa or master, then they will take it. But yes, there is always the issue of the key government is providing the supporting the rupee card proactively, and this was again an issue in the international market.
So this will prevent Visa and MasterCard from linking themselves with the UPI now. That decreases the effectiveness of the system in that way.
What exactly? What is your question?
Sir, because of that, this attitude of the government, sir, Visa and MasterCard will not be much interested in integrating with the UPI payment network.
So there is no need for the Visa and Mastercards to come in this with.
Sir, I was reading one newspaper article in which government is planning to also link credit cards with the UPI network.
And it is already there, buy now, pay later.
Yes, sir.
In some form, but the control is not there. And though so many companies are coming with the buy now, pay later credit card with an increased limit. But again,
Sir, but it will create a conflict, na, sir. Later means you are.
no, it won't create the conflict. RBI is the parent body, and in fact, I believe that RBI has recently included or issued the circular against the Bharat Pay and other issues bodies which are including the payment, because they are charging the very exorbitant interest. At the end of the day, they are the capitalist, be it master or be it visa. People as a rational customer will only go with the services which is providing them better service. When it comes to economy, nationalism is subsidiary. This is the rule. This is the iron thumb rule. That when it comes to the economy, when it comes to the air pocket, for example, if I go for the card, then I generally prefer MasterCard. So that is the case. Why should I prefer the rupee, which is not accepted at many places and charges are also hidden charges are high. Buy now and such other bodies, like even with so much grand persona of this person, the judge of the Shark Tank. What was his name? What is his name? Yes, Ashneer Grover. What they are resorting is completely thuggery. No, Bharat Pay, not exactly Ashneer Grover. So what exactly they are doing is they are just tricking the customers into buying the exorbitant interest rate. So this is what RBI controlled, and the day RBI tried to control it, there was some statement by all the people that know that this will curtail the market. So in that context, if you will see, Visa and MasterCard is better. Okay, so ultimately see that it is about the processing fee, that how many what services are being provided by Master or Visa card. So if it is better, the people as a rational customer will go to that only. Why you are always resorting to the Colgate? So this is the case now, that some services is being provided. Burger King is also there, Burger Singh is also there, but the larger choice I believe is Burger King because they are providing the quality product. Hai ki nahi? So that is the part. Now this part, as I told you, financing digital public infrastructure, interoperable, modular and protocols, comprehensive also, is the key feature of any good public digital infrastructure. And this is why UPI has become quite successful in the international as well as in the Indian market, because there is no centralizing body, there is only quasi-regulatory body like NPCI. The facilities, the bank is the primary customer, bank is the primary source, and the bank data is accessed by anyone who wants. This is the case. Second, changing between one network to other network is also always possible and feasible. And this is the reason that since that portability facility comes to the internet became competitive. याद आया आपको? कब शुरू हुआ था? 2016 में. उससे पहले के डेटा रेट्स देखो आप. for 1 GB or for month planning, you generally paid around 500-600 rupees. After that, GeoWalla part, interoperable part, the competition increased and it became quite cheap. Internet became quite cheap, figuratively free for nearly 3 to 4 years. Protocols, common protocol is also there which you are supposed to follow. And anybody, if many of you are using the UPI part, or UPI, then you know that there is a limit of 1 lakh rupees per fixed per day, and this is same for any of the institutions. They can change in according to their needs. But see, this is where the role of the quasi-regulatory body comes. So that the main body can survive. So for any of the transactions above 5, 6, 7, 1 lakh rupees, you have to go to the bank. So there is the space for both the institutions and the new institution. So this is the protocol which is everyone has to be resort by. So this is the part that, you know, and yes, you can use it in the IR that India is proactively helping the African countries in building the digital public infrastructure, as the example of the M-Pesa or Ghana currency. Ghana is just a system like Aadhaar, G-H-A-N, not the name of the country. Ghana is the name of the Aadhaar card in, or something like digital public repository in the African country. Ghana. So ultimately the line is that for anything to succeed, it should be beneficial to the public. If it is beneficial to the public in the forms of non-excludable or non-rivalous, then it will help the public. And yes, in this case, it is important that we should also comprehend or see the contributions of the private sector. For example, the initiation which was seen by that Anand Mahindra in building the quantum tech and the Geo institutions, the Reliance Ambani institutions, along with the Tata. So these are the private sectors which are providing active support in building the public infrastructure. A case for ethics in the quantum technology. Fourth topic. See, this is the part, these 5 principles of quantum mathematics, you should remember it. And this will help you in any of the paper, along the essay. Yeah, you can remember it verbatim. It is important. Okay. That it is generally convention based on, so that's why you are supposed to remember it. Now, why there is a need for ethics in the quantum technology? So, along with the Internet of Things, AI and machine learning, there is an issue or there is a development of the quantum mechanics which is based on packet. What is quantum mechanics exactly? अरे इतनी सारी मूवी देख ली आप लोगों ने मार्वल की, क्वांटम मैकेनिक्स नहीं पता है? किसी ने नहीं देखा क्या मार्वल का मूवी? क्या बात कर रहे हो? आयरन मैन एंड सच अदर मूवीज, कहाँ से? एवेंजर सीरीज? नो वन. ओके, सो बेसिकली क्वांटम तो पता ही होगा आपको. The quantum mechanics, basically study of the large small packets of the particles in the alternate reality. So it is challenging the notion of the classical physics in every way possible. So now the development is taken significantly by China and United States, and to some extent China is leading the overall progression in the quantum computing and mechanics. So it is also changing the scope of the quantum machine learning. Right now, before that we were saying machine learning. Now we are saying quantum machine learning. When with the machine learning, there was the problem of the consciousness. It is generally classified as soft and hard problem of consciousness. What is soft problem of consciousness? भाई consciousness कब आएगी? When there is empathy. If you are in such a situation where you are able to feel that this is the reality and I could have acted in that way and I could have empathized with the situation, then only will come with the problem of the consciousness. Na? Consciousness is this thing which is shaped by the overall surroundings. Now in machine learning, there is the hard problem of consciousness, that it can never emote. And if it can never emote, then how the consciousness will develop? So it was perceived, or it is believed that machine will never be able to think like humans. They can talk in their own language, but they can never emote. The cognitive development will be limited. They can never think for themselves. They can learn the behavior, but they can never think for themselves. So this is something called hard problem of consciousness. So it is important in the case of ethical paradigm in the AI, machine learning or quantum, anything. But with the quantum, it is said that it can start learning of its own. 2. That till now, everything was based on the classical notion of cryptography. ये तो समझ है. Cryptography based on 0-1 machine learning and part. So probably even with the encryption, okay, or nobody can read your message. But now quantum mechanics is designed in such a way, or quantum computing is designed in such a way, where it can break the classical cryptography in a very easy way, based on the packets. So it can learn, it can read you a message. The recent attack on the AIM server, पढ़ा होगा आप लोगों ने, is generally said as an act of the ransomware exactly. But how the classical cryptography was broken is open to guess, and such is the ratio. So, but China and US has developed to a significant stage in the quantum computing. So if the new technology is being used against the nation which don't have it, then it is broadly in the violation over the overall ethical paradigms of the international fraternity. And as you have seen that what are the risks associated, on the second page you will see that cyber security is the biggest risk that is associated with the quantum technology. That some experts have predicted that within a decade, the quantum computers could be used by the hackers and the hostile nation states to break existing encryption protocols. This would represent a major blow to a wide array of internet services, including e-commerce and other virtual financial transactions which rely on encryptions. Next point, cybersecurity risk posed by the quantum computers may benefit from becoming crypto-agile. Crypto-agility is the ability of organizations to quickly update their cryptographic algorithm, parameters, process and technology. समझे? What is crypto-agile?
Sir, who are the systems who have adopted to the crypto?
The systems, yes, and they upload their cryptographic algorithm in such a way that it can better respond to the protocol standards and security threats. यही होता है ना हर बार. भाई एंटीवायरस कौन बनाया करता था? No, who made the virus? That is the reality. Those persons who made the virus, they generally designed the antivirus because no, they know that there is this threat. There are some gaps, na. Ultimately, it is a language, and if suppose some grammatical mistakes is there, then there are some gaps which can be broken. So those persons who have the complete knowledge of the virus generally design the antivirus and subsequently they design the virus. Now, as machine will learn itself, it will start updating itself. So this is something being referred to crypto agility. Second point, AI data harvesting and privacy. So you see, it generally talks about, it will talk about the rampant data collection and how quantum computing is changing, supercharging the data harvesting pattern across the world. Based on the sophisticated quantum surfing. Third, explainability. This is important concept related with the quantum mechanics and overall cyberspace. Quantum computers and especially quantum machine learning presents the ultimate black box problem. Machine learning developers are familiar with the issue. Deep learning neural networks are notoriously opaque, and in the field of developing tools, they can make the possible to unravel hidden processing layer of model to understand how they arrive at an answer. And while those answers comes with the limitation, explainability is the least theoretical possible. This part is being violated by the quantum mechanics. If explainability is not there, it will be always open to threat and to risk. Okay. Now, fourth part, global tension and arms race. So it is largely being said that that quantum mechanics has opened new battleground and has developed as a new potential for the arms race between China, Korea, Japan and USA, even to some extent India also, though India is always lackluster in such case of race. Okay, but overall situation is that it has opened the potential for the arms race. Emerging materials. So you see that drug discoveries also there, carbon captures are also there. So in such case, with its supercharged research and developmental part, quantum tunneling and such other issues which is a bit technical. See, basically if there is this atom, we have the limited knowledge of the atom. And now if it is seen in a different way and multiple fast motion, then the tunneling process changes the scope of the discovery of the new materials. Mechanical generations, computer generated event will result in discovery of the new compounds and new materials, which can certainly threaten the existing social and classical notion of the physics. Huh? Yes, something like that. That it will result in the discovery of the new materials, that is the minute materials, but the application of it. Nahi samjhe? So this is some part it's being referred to as the quantum tunneling. So quantum tunneling will result in the new kind of materials. I gave you the example of the DDT in the class. That what are the consequences? That they are positive, but as an unintended consequences of quantum tunneling, there will be materials which certainly will have negative consequence. So based on that, there can be threat. Just think about it. Right now we are talking about gene editing. Hai na? And there are so many ethical issues that are associated with the gene editing. But just think about it, when we have a better comprehensible result or better computers simulations, then gene editing can be done in such a way that largely the designs are or the issues, disease can be dispensed away with or can be controlled. But who will have it? only the rich. And these, though I'm not supposed to say it, and probably this is a issue of largely not proven research, but just think about it, the propensity and the fatality due to heart attacks has increased in India severely. बढ़ी है कि नहीं बढ़ी है post COVID? Some people are attributing it to the vaccine. Maybe not, there is no proven research, but the incidences of diabetes have increased significantly across the United States where the vaccines of the Pfizer and Moderna were taken. Same is true with the miscarriages in the young women. First time miscarriages in the young women. So just think about, without proven result, without proper time of clinical trial, it certainly can have a disastrous consequences. And it is said that, probably there were two vaccines, Covaxin and Covishield. The incidences of thrombosins is very high in case of Covishield. These are small particles, arterial blockage, which will eventually result in heart attack. Okay, which will eventually result in heart attack. So thrombosins are there. So you see that unintended consequences are there. So just think about the gene editing, because it will open the multitude of the directions or simulations for opening up the quantum computing. Right now we are talking about just 0 and 1. Just think about, with the quantum computing, the possibility of the 0 and 1 will be increased to significant. And how many of you have seen that movie? That movie of Christopher Nolan, Interstellar. किसी ने देखा है?
Yes, sir.
So there is this the image of the black hole, which after a while found that it nearly matches the exact image of the black hole, and it was done with the help of the computer simulations only. And it is the exact image of the black hole. Just they did it for the movie based on computer simulations. Just think about that possibility that quantum mechanics or quantum computing opens up for the future. Now, what are the solution and what the ethics are? They are saying that these are the parts that a meta ethics should be comprehensible. Principles of quantum meta ethics, it should be comprehensible. It should be intelligible and publicly accountable. There should be no echo of essence of the conflict, and it must be presented in the positives and negatives to all the stakeholders. Second, non-general. Quantum technology should not deepen existing social divide and must be viewed as a vehicle for specific innovation that leads to non-generic application areas, design and address points, problems and focus ecosystems. Second part समझ में आ गया? As I told you, gene editing, it will be only for the specifics, or the overall investment that is being done by the Google, Facebook, Apple and such other companies in the quantum computing. So they will just, there's this search engine, AlphaGo. Sorry, chess engine, AlphaGo. How many of you know about it? How many of you are interested in the chess? कोई interested है chess में? So there is this search engine AlphaGo, and basically it is AI powered chess engine. Before that, there were many chess engines like Deep Blue, and there was some engine named Fish. So they are run by AlphaGo. No. I believe that it is a AI search based chess engine provided by Google. So as it happened that engine beat the Korean Grandmaster in 3 continuous games. So the result in the Korean society, it was said that we are not developing the AI. I'm talking about way back in 2015.
That was documented in the
Yes.
Couldn't touch us in there. Go engine.
Go engine. So there was uproar in the Korean society कि भाई we are not developing the AI and quantum computing. So the government and along with the private sector, government contributed $20 billion and the private sector contributed $20 billion for the development of quantum computing and AI in Korea. What is the percentage of the overall GDP in R&D in Korea?
4%.
More than 4%. It is same in Israel and Korea. For Israel it is 5%, for Korea it is nearly 4.8%. Why it is important? Because with the help of such investment in R&D, they came out of the middle income trap, and I believe that you know what is middle income trap, है ना? And that's why it is being often recommended that India should invest more in R&D and education for coming out of the middle income trap. हम तो आ नहीं रहे हैं अभी. We are just outsourcing our work through Infosys and Wipro, getting the placement at the mass basis. Okay, so that is the case that it should be non-general. Third, availability. That openness and inclusivity should be pivotal for the development of quantum ethics. As of now, only 4 to 5 companies are controlling the quantum computing, and eventually a time will come when the small business will shut. So that's why it is saying that the availability should be one of the foremost important feature of the quantum metaethics. Accessibility. Quantum technology should be should be sustainable and responsibly developed. Provision should be in place to carry out a technology impact assessment to evolve best practices, anticipate long-term consequence of the technology and accommodate for these scenarios where unintended outcome may arise. ठीक है, unintended outcome समझ गए आप, material development and the consequences because of that. Contextual. Quantum technology should be developed with should not be developed with one size fits all approach. Civil society participate should be encouraged when assessing the implication of these technologies on the common man. Cultural context should be accommodated while developing quantum technologies. See, these are the meta ethics, means not exactly ethical lines, but it can be applied anywhere. Now, sensible should be catered to the aspirations of the common man. Technology development must be planned for the socio-economic well-being of the people. This is a bit utopian in approach, if I may say. यहाँ भाई सब कुछ तो पढ़ा लग रहा है, बहुत ही generic लग रहा है ना? But you see that there is largely no framework as of now for the development of the quantum computing. As you have learnt in the ethics, कि भाई law is always relegated in the background when it comes to the technology. First technology develops and only after that some law develops. ठीक है? So, India in quantum tech, these are the broader points where India is investing or trying to develop the quantum technology in case of India. So it will give you a figurative idea about the Indian adventure. So who will govern the ethics is the main important line. So they are saying that it is the academics and the scientists who are developing the quantum technology should be given the positives and the negatives of the quantum computing and quantum technology. They should be the one who should design and develop the ethical premise around this. Further, they are saying that multilateral institutions like Quad and G20 should be the body where the ethics related with the quantum technology should be developed. Similarly, societal model, United States and intergovernmental organizations, industry associations can provide for the development of the standard ethical guidelines for those of context-specific quantum mechanics development. these last line, that quantum ethical, legal, social and policy implication project, which is a joint initiative of Stanford and Oxford University, can serve as a guiding body for quantum ethical development society. Similarly, the University of Sydney and Observer Research Foundations can serve as a body for development of the quantum ethical guidelines. ठीक है. Now the last topic, just be very fact based topic. Why does India need a well designed credit system? First, what is the credit score? Borrower credit history based on what? His pattern of loans, pattern of expenditure, that how timely he is paying up the loans, that what is exactly his credit worthiness, and how much credit hungry he is. Credit hungry is? Yes. Say for example, if you are using a credit card and if you are using it more than 80% or 70% of the limit per month, and less than 20% of the limit per month, your credit card score will decrease, your CIBIL score will decrease. Because in case of less than 20%, you are not credit hungry. In case of you are utilizing the credit, and in more than 80%, you are completely credit hungry. So this is the part, and this is how your score will decrease. Now, why there is a need? Eventually, because after the COVID, many of the private sector people were not able to pay up the loans, credit card loans, home loans, EMI loans, everything. Right now, it is only used for the financial lending in India, or lending of the credit card or such other facilities. But in case of United States, it is also being used for renting a house. समझ के? That if you want to rent a house, then you have to give your credit score, and if your credit score is low, you will not be rented a house, or probably in the area you want. So, in case of India, after the COVID issue, many of the people, the overall credit worthiness decreased. Second, with the case of India, because the default rate is very high in case of student loans. भाई जॉब मिल ही नहीं रही है, पैसे कहाँ से देंगे? So in that case also, the credit score is suffering to a significant extent. Sometimes it is 350. 300 to 900 is the range in significant number of the significant cases. 350 is worse. You will not be given any loan anywhere, or probably if you will be given a loan, it will be by NBFCs at an exorbitantly high interest rate. So, and who rates the credit scores? Who gives the credit scores? Credit rating agencies. So, credit rating agencies like CRISIL, ICRA, CARE and SEMRA. Credit rating agencies these agencies assess a debitor's capacity to repay a loan by making timely principal and interest payment, as well as the possibility of the default. ठीक है? मैथमेटिकल कैलकुलेशन है, क्रेडिट वर्दनेस बोथ क्वालिटेटिव एंड क्वांटिटेटिव सेंस में देखते हैं. Now, importance of growing credit system in India. For lenders, investor makes better decisions. See, the issue is that after the consecutive decisions of demonetization, exactly wrong implementation of, not wrong, but untimely implementation of GST, and post-COVID, all the industries, particularly the small players, had suffered quite a lot. particularly after demonetization and GST. And this was further exacerbated by the informal sector, and small and medium sectors in the country after COVID. Resultantly, gross saving ratio decreased to significant extent. And when the saving decreases, the hunger for the credit increases. And because of the credit rating system and the agency, because there is no complaint mechanism against the score, there is no interoperability because everybody rates on a different parameter. For care, the parameter is different, that if you are making the timely payment, then that is the only thing. For CIBIL, how much credit hungriness is there, such other issues are there, everything is calculated. So this is part. Further, now UPI is also there. Right now, if you are not using any kind of the loan, your credit score doesn't come. So for having a credit score, it is a bare minimum that for once in your life, you have to take a loan. If you are, financially prudent, financially disciplined, even then if you are not using the credit card or for that matter any of the loan, then you will not get a CIBIL score. So that was the case with the informal sector or as the SHGs or the many of the women's, because they operate the account but they never have the credit card, and that's why their CIBIL is always non-existent. For simply loan approval, banks are more likely to approve borrowers' loan applications if they have the high credit rating. Credit rating have brought a culture of financial discipline, made capital allocation more effective by accurately pricing risk, and fostered financial innovation. Credit rating will enable independent benchmarks. So this is the part where the credit score is there. Now, why we are not supposed to redesign it? Because there is the growing use of the credit because of the conditions which I have mentioned you just now. Growing market for the debit card and credit card because of the average age of the 31. Further, the issue of credit card has increased dramatically over the past 4 years at the compound annual growth rate of 20%. 62 million credit card customers between March 2017 to March 2021. It climbed to 26 and 23% respectively. Further, the impact of pandemic on Indian credit industries, credit ratio declined across sector, reflecting macroeconomic trends and the grim outlook for physicals in 2021. Hardly there were people able to pay up the loans on time. This disruption caused by the pandemic and ramifications on the global credit scores, which further resulted into the low borrowing capacity in the Indian market. Further, in the COVID year, the credit card industry grew only by 7%. Now there are frequent disruptions, fintech disruptions, that new age bank, fintechs and original equipment OEMs are issuing the credit cards, collaborating with the banks under their own names, and they are giving the credit card. New risk models are being proposed by the different rating agencies. Card issues are experiencing with the number of novel credit card model for the unsecured as well as secured product can be served by those people who are using the credit card or not using can be served by this model. Further, contactless payments are also there. Mobile based QR. See, the credit people are venturing into the credit market, but because as I told you that if you will not be able to use the credit card or any of the loan, you will not get a credit score. So that is the part. And for bank will give the credit card to anyone or loan to anyone who have a higher credit score. So that's why a new credit rating agency system is needed, along with for the students who are not able to pay up the time. So even with the interest subvention or subsidy on the loan, your credit score will not, be 350 or such other issue. Now, shift in the demographic profile, which I have already mentioned, the average age is 31. Millennials and Generation Gs have improved access to education, jobs and income. That's why there is a need for revision in the overall credit card. Digital savvy consumers, rise in income. भाई हर चीज EMI पे मिल रही है. For EMI you have to have the credit card, है ना? So everybody wants to have a credit card, but again the design, the parameters were used by the old part. Now Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana has also increased the scope for the credit card by eligible families and financial inclusion. New channels, you see that e-commerce, simple buy now pay later, all these scopes are improving the scope for the credit card and the credit rating. That's why there is the scope for. Now how the credit score model puts women at disadvantage. This is the part. In many countries are unable to own land or have property and less likely to obtain lands. Further, challenge in these markets in increasing access to credit, huge segment of women-owned microfinance, medium enterprise are unreserved or underserved with an estimated $1.7 trillion financial gap in emerging economies. To overcome this challenge, it is imperative to identify new and alternative model that uses source of data that gives insight into the financial lives and capacity of the unbanked, so that the financial institution can have access to the appropriately designed credit rating system agencies. Now they are suggesting credit system in India, lack of uniformity, unable to differentiate between equity instrument and mutual funds. Credit ratings are not reliable. Transparency is lacking in the credit rating agencies. Credit rating organizations have responsibility to alert the government authorities about any vulnerability and disadvantage, but they are not doing it. The issuer pay agreements in which the issuer pay the credit rating agencies fee. See, this is the important point, and it is not important point for only for the credit rating agencies across anywhere. I'm just suggesting you one movie, please. If you do have the time, watch it, and you will understand the global financial crisis in very detail, and you will understand the overall functioning of the credit rating agencies. The Big Short. This is the name of the movie, and one of the finest actors, Christian Bale, is there in this movie. The Big Short. Basically, it just showcases you, and it will help you in some aspect of the UPSC for also, that how credit rating agency functions. See, as I told you that in case of CIBIL in India, CIBIL is rated only for landing. In case of US, it is rated for the renting or buying a house too. So, in case of exactly what happened during the global financial crisis is that, it was the credit rating agencies are funded by the institutions, banking institutions or any other institutions. So they pay a certain kind of fee to them, and if the fee is not paid or if their rating is not improved, the company will go to the other brand. For example, just think of Moody. You know the name Moody, S&P. So if Moody is not giving you a high rating, you will go to S&P. Okay, that I will pay you the higher fee and just increase my rating. Such type of practice is called rate shopping. Rate shopping, which was banned in the aftermath of global financial crisis by the Dodd-Frank Act. Dodd-Frank Act 2012. DODD Frank Act 2012. But the US Senate never passed the bill. So Dodd-Frank Act is still inactive. And the issues like rate swapping and issuer pay model is still progressing across the world. And it was the credit rating agencies which is largely responsible for the global financial crisis, because they keep giving the highest rating to the housing market, and it was believed that housing market will not collapse anywhere or across the world, but it was the collapse of the housing market in the United States which resulted in global financial crisis. So this is the part, that how these agencies function, it is not transparent. They never show their model, that based on what criteria you are giving and such kind of. So there is lack of transparencies. As I told you, that education loan and that how women are at disadvantage in obtaining the loan is another issue because of the lack of credit score or for the unbanked part. So because of all such issues, a new kind of credit rating system is needed in case of India. And see, here it is written that the intervention by SEBI is needed, but two models are very popular and people are saying that, for example, India, in case of international agencies, there is an institution, there is a rating agency which is run by the multilateral bodies. One is run by the University of Singapore in collaboration with the UN, that it should act as in rating agencies based on the models. This was one of the recommendations. In case of India, a new method, a new model, though SEBI is the principal body.
Do we have credit rating agencies of Indian own?
Yes, we have. The CRISIL is Indian, our own rating agency.
The economic survey highlighted the concern that international companies are valuing very low ratings that's handling our investment. So their credibility is more.
See, probably if you will go to the US, okay, you will not, give a hoot about that. What is the rating of Indian agencies on India? Okay, and even though there was also allegation that because of the good relations of the Modi during 2019, Moody and particularly S&P rated Indian agencies very higher. They increased one level during the course of the election. So, and in fact, there are many incidences across the world, particularly in Germany in 1993, that a company which was functioning very fine went to S&P for rating, and they demanded certain amount of money. The company said that they will not pay the money. I'm just forgetting the name. Lee Himes was the name. I'm not exactly remembering that name. And they said that they will not pay the money. And subsequently, they gave their adverse rating. Eventually, after 2 years, the company went bankrupt. And this is not an isolated incident. There has been such incidences across US and Western in the Europe also, where the adverse rating was provided to the companies, because you see that they never clear their model based on what criteria. And you were asking about the rating. Just think about, yes, before that there was a Satyam scam. How many of you know about that scam? Satyam scam we know, na? During the Satyam scam, it was the PwC, which was the accountant company, which was supposed to look for the accounts and the balance sheet of the Satyam Industries, is completely ignored this. Such practices are called rate shopping, because in exchange for money, they try to overlook, or they generally overlook, some of the arbitrariness in the overall accounting procedures. In case of India, SERA is there, CRISIL is there, but generally in case of rating agencies, we call the big three. They are the hegemons. They are the oligopolists in the rating agencies. Name is? कौन से हैं? दो तो मैंने आपको
S&P, Finch and Moody's.
Yes, these are the big threes. S&Ps, Moody's and Finch. These are the big threes. They have this oligopolistic tendencies, monopolistic tendencies, and it is for them the Dodd-Frank Act was brought, but it was not passed by the US Senate, or largely it is inoperable as per.
In India, we don't have any legislation.
We have the guidelines by the SEBI, but not exactly any legislatures. Even for Indian needs, across the world, if they rate any country based on their ratings, maybe from A to minus D, A to D, based on their rating, investment comes.
So, but how are they considered credible then?
How are they considered credible? Because you don't have any options. Now, ultimately, see, at least some amount of information is there with them.
Why is there no alternative to provide more credibility?
Yes, this is what I told you, that some alternatives are coming, but it is not being accepted largely.
What is the reason for not acceptance? Is it lower standards, higher standards, or the subjectivity involved in rating?
Because of their networks. Network is very important. For example, it is generally said that, McKinsey never hired from India. McKinsey is a consultancy company. So before 96, it never hired anyone from India, and probably it never hired anyone from IIT Delhi. So when Rajat Kapoor became CEO of McKinsey, the hiring suddenly increased in IIT Delhi because he was an alumnus of the IIT Delhi. So this is what exactly is there. They have their networks, and significant networks are there, and acceptability. See, probably it is all about modeling. So you will never know that what University of Singapore has done or UN has done. But the recommendation is that any of the institution based on UN or such other bodies, multilateral bodies, should come with a alternative modeling so that rating can be fair. I believe that I have taken that class, credit rating agencies in India, previously, in this session only.
Not in this session, but it was once.
Okay. So, see, probably if you want, then I will just cover it. See, largely these are the issues. I gave you the name, some of the names I am forgetting, which I will mention in the next class. But the methods, that what they exactly, what they see, balance sheet, debt to equity ratio. So these are some of the things, based on that they give the rating. You must have heard that India's rating has decreased to minus triple Bs or junk bonds, or it has improved to triple A, double A. Okay, so US is generally rated, even with such lower growth from last 10-15 years. This is what economic surveys highlighted upon, that Western Europe and US is not growing, yet their rating is consistent, stable. India is growing at this much ratio, and China has gone with this, and yet their rating is in the triple B, minus triple B categories. So this is what India is highlighting upon, that you are viewing the overall progression of the credit or the sovereignty bond in India in a negative light, and based on that investment never comes. Yes, it decreases the investment, but investment generally comes. Investors are the people who generally see, they generally gauge where the money is.
So, like World Bank and IMF, is it not in the interest of Western countries to have a universal credit rating agency?
You can say that.
So, if it is in their interest, why are they depending on these oligopoly three people?
The big threes.
The big threes, because when they want to further their own interest.
Because they have the probably it is in the human interest that generally they look for the stability. They will always look for the stability, and they have been doing it since 1931, since 1886. So they have this experience of this much years. I believe that Moody opened in 1886. That was the year, 1886.
Is there some intellectual property to calculation
No.
of this?
No.
There's nothing like
No,
that.
it's just like UPSC. They never give you the, that model exactly, that on what model they, pehle the score of the optionals. So it's just, they never give the exact model. They have the different model of different, but
Predictions have been quite successful.
in some cases, yes, it was very successful. In other cases, there is largely failure. For example, GFC is considered as the biggest failure. That's why I told you, just watch the movie and you will really like it, because if you have this certain, intellectual curiosity about understanding the GFC and how, even with the patterns, which was recognized by two economists across the world. One, कौन थे स्टार इकोनॉमिस्ट? अभी भारत जोड़ो यात्रा में देखा होगा आपने, हाँ, Raghuram Rajan. So Raghuram Rajan was the person who predicted it in 2006 itself, that there are certain kind of anomaly in the financial market which will result in a crisis. And the other scientist was just curiously, he was a doctor, MD medicine, Michael J. Berry. He identified that there are significant chances that there will be a crisis, that housing industry will collapse. And he made billions out of it. So these two peoples are generally said that they identified the pattern. But in case of, and it is shown in that movie that S&P says ki bhai, if will not give them rating, they will go to other places and they will buy the rating. So for retainership, we have to give them rating, which ultimately defeats the purpose, because they are acting as the gatekeeper of their own. Who will guard the guardian? This is the line. Na? For them, there is no guardian. if there is no guardian, there are chances that it will fail. And it is exactly this has happened, and it is been happening, and that's why there was this issue in the survey. Ki it is not being rated fairly. On that note, if you do have the questions, yes, you can ask. But otherwise, the discussion for this today's session is over.
Is it not in global interest to raise a intergovernmental credit rating agency, which is fair and transparent?
Ultimately,
something
see,
like the-
it is the private entities that go for the ratings, apart from the country. Largely, their funding is done by the private entities. Just think about it. Who is rated as the most valued company across the world? Which company is rated across the most valued company? Apple. There are so many. Tesla right now. So Tesla will not go to any intergovernmental panel. They will go to these companies only.
Sir, but for middle income countries, it will be helpful.
For middle,
We cannot.
see, there are two types of bond. One is sovereign wealth bond, which is the bond of the country, and the other, the more important bond is the private entities bonding, or the rating of the private companies. For example, even Jio or Reliance will go to the Moody's. Reliance will always go to the Moody's. It will not go to the intergovernmental panel. Adani. When Modi government came into the power, Adani was rated as a negative company, and some Australian bank denied the loans to the Adani Industries. So, with the help of Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, they got the loan of 23 billion from SBI, and eventually, after 8 years, they are the biggest company. So, you see, these are the bonds now. This is the issue that you have somewhere in the network, so they will go to the Moody's for rating. And intergovernmental panel, it is believed, though not exactly in every sense, but it is believed that the rating will be fair. And see, the issue is that the modeling, the methods of modeling is developed largely, it is mathematical game, so it is developed by the University of Singapore, and UN is the contributory authority in that too. But it is not that popular. In fact, it can be controlled if that the act I'm mentioning frequently, Dodd-Frank Act, is passed in letter and spirit, but it is also not being done so by the government itself. So why government will go to the intergovernment, any of the multilateral institutions? Just in next class probably, whenever I will take it, I will discuss some of the 3 or 4 points of the Dodd-Frank Act. Eventually, it will help you in understanding the overall functioning of the rating agencies. Okay?
So how did the
Sir,
Yes.
Sir, in Indian context, can we say that it is reliable to have a government rating agency? In India, it means the retail loans and the corporate loans in Indian context. Because sir, ultimately banks are the public investors, banks hold the public money on it. It should be distributed fairly by.
See, after 2002 SARFAESI Act, I believe in SARFAESI Act. After 2002 ARC and this act, government has completely relegated its position from this rating instead the ratios. So regulation is, government is not venturing, it is regulating. The regulation is done by SEBI, and you have to believe it that SEBI is one of the most efficient regulator across the financial market, across the world. They are really consumer friendlies and customer friendlies. They try to control it, and in fact, if you will see it, compare it with the United States, then you will find that SEBI is really, particularly the the chairman, Umesh Sinha, who was before, who was really, there was no foolhardying or shenanigans around him, and SEBI really functioned in a really efficient manner. Though there are some problems everywhere, but sometimes you have to trust the rating agencies. Yes, there should be an act which should regulate the overall behavior, because largely these parameters are absent, there is no equal parameters. Eventually it will develop. It will develop because the industry is disrupting at a quite frequent phase, rapid phase. Okay.
Okay, sir.
How did the world shifted from the debit model to the credit model? Like it is because of the consumerist society or
Okay, debit to credit model. Uh, you see that in fact even in the Islamic society there is a phenomenon which is being followed called Sharia banking. पता है सबको? है ना? So even in Hindu society, loan taking is considered bad. Catholics भी पूरा मानते हैं, लोन नहीं लेना चाहिए. उधार प्रेम की कैंची है, पढ़ा होगा आपने, है ना, हर जगह दुकानों पे लिखा रहता है उधार प्रेम की कैंची है. So the region, you see, there Jews were there. Jews and Protestant, these two communities started the modern banking system. How? Because Jews were socially excluded people, but they were really meritorious, not meritorious, but they knew how to use the institutions and such other issues, so they earned the money. And Protestant after 1915, they said that the glory of the God is to find in the mysteries of the world. So they started finding the mysteries. Further, the society, the structure of the British society was such, and in fact to some extent Netherlands, Spain and Portugal society was such, that the first among the born, first son can marry and bring the wife home. So this was largely the design of the society. So the rest of the sons have to stay outside the home, and they became adventurous. For their adventure, they needed the money, and such money was given to them by Jews and the Protestant. Largely, it was the Jews. So it is the structure of the society, and you see, basically, nowadays, and to some extent, even if you will see that there is no harm in taking the credit because you are in some way reinvesting it. If in the consumerist society, yes, you are just trying to buy the items and such other issues, but largely the structure of the Western Europe society is such that the credit is taken for reinvestment, and it is believed that with reinvestment money will grow, and this was largely started by the Protestants. And such, that's why, and to nowadays, you want to save the money. Just think about it, that if you are buying the home and you are paying something around 6 to 7% or 8% even of the loan, at least you are beating the inflation with that. So the financial prudence is developing with the age and knowledge, internet. समझ आया ये point? नहीं? Financial prudence, you are beating up the inflation. If you are keeping it in the saving account, then you are getting 8% of the interest. Okay, and if you are buying a home at one time with 2 crore of money, ठीक है, you are just wasting it. Okay, कि भाई 2 करोड़ आपने दे दिए, कुछ आपके हाथ में रहा नहीं. But if you keep that 2 crore of rupees in some other financial instrument, for example mutual fund, for example share market, or any such other institutions, you are getting more amount, and you are just paying 8% for that or 9% for that. So you are making more money with the money that you already have. That's why it is as per the financial prudence and the consumerist society that a debit society converted itself into a credit taking society. Okay. Even the rich people. See, in the United States, it is the students who finance their own education, but that is not the case in India. Na? It is generally financed by parents. Okay, so but here, because the emphasis is upon the education, because we are low income countries, and those who cannot afford it generally take the loans, and the developing societies generally, for example, most of the education in Kerala is funded by the loans. Generally student takes the loan, but in northern side it is funded by the parents. So that is the overall different approach of taking the loans. Okay, thank you.